Test.
There it is. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to call this meeting of the Technical Review Committee for the Stanley Historic District to order. It is Thursday, October 30th at 11:02 in the afternoon. We're going to... Morning. 11:02 in the morning. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to start with introductions of TRC members and staff. We'll start to my left and come on down. We lost all of our mics again.
I have to push an individual.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Mike Wisniewski. I'm with the Archdiocese of Denver, and I'm a volunteer on the TRC.
My name is Travis Mahalik. I'm the town administrator for the town of Estes Park and the chair of the TRC.
Hang on 1 second. Technical difficulties.
All right.
All on, your mics are going to be live.
All right, my name is David Greer. I'm the Public Works Director for the town of Estes Park.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Sullivan. I'm a retired architect in Denver, Colorado.
Staff introductions, please.
Paul Hornbeck, senior planner with the town.
Perfect. All right, we have an agenda before us today. Any additions, questions, removals, changes to that agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
Oh, we need a motion in this.
Oh, I motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do we raise our hand or we just?
We'll need a roll call vote.
Hang on a second. I got to turn my own mic on. No? This is crazy. Are all your mics still on?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Onto the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Technical Review Committee minutes dated July 7th, 2022. Delegation of future approval of minutes to the chair. Architectural Review Committee minutes dated October 21st, 2025. Acknowledgement only. Does anyone want any item removed from the consent agenda?
No.
If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Wow, technology is really winning, guys. Sorry. Mahonen,
Yes.
Wineski,
Yes.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
and I'm sorry, I
Sullivan.
forgot Sullivan.
Yes.
Motion carries. On to our action item for this morning and potentially afternoon. Stanley Hotel and Manor House expansion preliminary package. John Cole and Jack Mousseau applicants. And we will start with the staff presentation.
Thank you and good morning. Jackie, I assume you're going to pull it up.
We'll see if that works.
All right, so since TRC is a rather unique and uncommon process, I'll start with a very high-level overview. The Stanley Historic District is primarily governed by the Stanley Historic District Master Plan. The Master Plan dictates all new development shall be first reviewed as a preliminary package by the Technical Review Committee, TRC, and the Architectural Review Committee, ARC, followed by review of a final package by the TRC. The master plan includes general design guidelines applicable to the entire district, as well as specific development standards and considerations for each individual parcel. The ARC has reviewed these guidelines and standards and did forward a recommendation of approval with some conditions. So the proposal before you is for an 86,000 square foot addition to the Stanley Hotel and Manor House. The addition would link the 2 buildings. It includes 65 new guest rooms, a new lobby for check-in, as well as support facilities. The staff memo in the packet lists all applicable standards from the master plan. This presentation will summarize those standards, but we can dive into any of those specific standards in more detail at the TRC's request. The master plan provides site planning guidelines. There's some overlap in the first three regarding preservation of natural landforms, minimizing grading, and preserving views. So the proposed building additions themselves will have minimal impact on existing landforms. They are located behind the existing buildings, largely in already disturbed areas of parking lots and man-made landscaped areas. However, the new entrance road and parking lot will have some impact with cut and fill grading. There's also some grading proposed to create a flat lawn in front of the hotel. This would raise that area 2 to 8 feet. This would have the effect of increasing grades in the area just north of Steamer Parkway from around 7% to approximately 20%. This would change the views but not obstruct those views from Steamer Parkway. The application materials indicate FO Stanley had an original vision for a great lawn in front of the hotel, which this would further that goal. The materials also indicate the old pool and tennis court would be regraded to a more natural landform. The master plan requires protection of certain views of the hotel, and it values the overall prominence of the hotel from many locations in the valley. The proposed grading would likely have little to no impact on those distant views. There are numerous significant trees proposed for removal. However, there will be significant new landscaping as well. Staff requests the final package indicate the exact loss of trees and show how those will be offset with new plantings. The other items, natural drainage, clustering of buildings and parking lots, and respecting neighborhood context, staff finds those items met or will be met with the final package submittal. The next topic is building placement guidelines. So the new buildings will require considerable excavation. However, the end product will result in buildings with a reduced mass built into the existing landforms. The new access road will necessitate a grade change of approximately 25 feet from Steamer Parkway to the new parking lots. There will be considerable cut to achieve this grade change, although fill appears limited as directed by the guidelines. This road does meander to the maximum extent possible to follow those landforms, and disturbed areas will be revegetated. Solar impacts from the proposal appear minimal. No new utility or service areas are proposed. New sidewalks are proposed. However, Public Works has requested some modifications reflected in the recommended conditions of approval to ensure connectivity with future town trail projects. Intersection visibility does appear met. However, staff requests additional documentation with the final package. The landscape guidelines. Staff analysis is that these guidelines are largely met with the use of mostly native vegetation, which will help soften views of the parking areas and new buildings. One item worth mentioning is the retaining wall proposed north of the construction of the two buildings between two levels of different parking lots B and C. This wall will be will range from 3 to 14 feet in height. They will have a stacked sandstone veneer to match sandstone elsewhere on the site. Staff does recommend a condition to for the final package to address how the visual impact of this wall is mitigated.
Planner Hornbeck, before you leave that one, I noted in 5 and 6 that it talks pretty extensively about bluegrass turf. Number 6 specifically, it says the use of bluegrass turf is not allowed except in parcel 1 and 4. And I didn't see that there were references to a great lawn. Is that planned to be a natural lawn, or is there a desire to have bluegrass on that, as permitted on that parcel 1?
I believe it's shown as more of a natural turf, but I could have the applicant confirm that. The master plan calls out specific dimensional guidelines, standards, including maximum allowable square footage, maximum building floor plate, building heights. Those are all met. Off-street parking is also met with this proposal, as well as building setbacks. So next is building design standards. Before going through those, I want to recap the review that's occurred. The Colorado Historic Foundation is a private nonprofit entity which holds easements that protect the historic facades and overall historic integrity of the hotel complex. The foundation has worked extensively with the applicant towards a design that meets their standards, which are largely overlap with standards in this master plan. Additionally, the Architectural Review Committee, as mentioned, has reviewed and recommended approval with conditions. So with that, go through some high-level review of these standards. The standards focus on not imitating historic styles, minimizing visual scale, compatible roof forms, natural materials, natural colors, and subdued lighting. As the Historic Foundation Review stated in their letter, the architectural design is compatible while being distinguished from the historic buildings. A few things of note: the new shingles are proposed to be red in color. The guidelines do prohibit bright colors. However, staff finds the proposed red to not be a bright red, and it also is supported by the direction in the master plan to blend roof materials with their surroundings, so they will match the existing structures. Another item, white walls are proposed, which is in conflict with the master plan. However, using a color palette consistent with the historic structure makes for a more compatible design. And there are other techniques outlined that help differentiate the old and new structures. Additionally, white walls are consistent with recent TRC approval for the Film Center. The ARC did recommend TRC approve a variance to allow the white walls as a design solution consistent with the master plan. There are some special considerations listed in the master plan. Compliance with the facade easements has been met. Limits on floor plate, square footage, access, parking, and landscaping. And again, staff finds general conformance with these items, with one exception being parking. The temporary parking lot that exists now will be removed and revegetated, which is in accordance with the master plan. However, there's a new parking lot proposed south of the existing concert hall. This proposed parking lot does not comply with the requirement that parking be behind the front facade of the hotel complex. However, there do not appear to be any practical locations for parking behind the front facade. The proposed parking is located east of the front of the hotel, which does allow for open space in front of the hotel and minimizes visual impacts of views to the hotel. Visual impacts are also mitigated by proposed landscaping and by breaking up the parking into different tiers. The ARC did forward a TRC recommendation to approve this variance request as well, in conformance with the intent of the master plan. Final consideration deals with additions not destroying significant features, being set apart from historic buildings, being compatible in scale and visually subordinate, and use of similar materials. Staff finds compliance with these items. The images here represent some small changes the applicant made as a result of their work with the Historic Foundation to ensure the additions are distinguished from the historic structures. The municipal code requires conformance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation of historic buildings, which staff does find compliance with. There is considerable overlap in these standards with some of the standards already covered, such as compatibility, additions being subordinate and secondary, appropriate building forms, materials, colors without duplication. Other standards deal with window and door openings and physical and visual separation of the additions, which is illustrated by the image on the right. So with that, advantages, this proposal is consistent with the intent of the master plan. Disadvantages, the application is inconsistent with the two standards called out for recommended for variance approval. At their October 21st meeting, the ARC did forward a recommendation of approval, including approval of the two variances, as well as a number of conditions. Those conditions deal with materials used for drainage facilities, quantity of proposed loss of significant trees, information to ensure slopes greater than 3:1 are properly stabilized, site distance being shown on final plans, details on site furnishings, showing limits of disturbance and tree protection standards, additional landscaping between parking lots B and C, and addressing the visual impact of the retaining wall. Additionally, staff recommends two additional conditions that were not included with the ARC due to Public Works review being incomplete at the time of that meeting. Those conditions are comments concerning the traffic impact study shall be addressed with the final package. And all comments in the Public Works letter shall be addressed with the final package. Three of the bigger items in that letter include concrete curb and gutter being installed along the north frontage of Steamer Parkway to match existing with 24-inch width of the gutter where possible. Sidewalk at the northeast corner of the new entrance, continuing south to Steamer Parkway and including a curb ramp, as well as existing concrete trail on the south side of Steamer Parkway adjacent to Lot 4, being extended west approximately 175 feet. And these two trail and sidewalk extensions will line up with future planned improvements that are in the town's capital improvement plan for sidewalks and trails in the area. Sample motions are provided for your reference, and happy to answer questions.
I guess I had one question about the new entrance. Has there been thought as to which direction would have stop controls?
That's a detail I'm not sure on. I wonder if
I see someone shaking their head in the audience.
Mr. Whitwer would be able to address.
The TIS indicated that a four-way stop control at that intersection would be proposed.
Okay.
Engineer Whitwer, I think this might be a question for you as well. Some concerns, both publicly expressed in public comment, but also just from observations over there. The gatehouse operation will occasionally, and I understand it's a necessary element of limiting access to the campus due to its proximity to downtown and, of course, its draw as a destination. The location of the gatehouse, I think, is important relative to how people are accessing that off of Steamer. We have seen backups onto Steamer before, and I would certainly, if we're aligning this with that intersection off of Wonderview, the worst possible scenario in my mind is that we impact traffic on Wonderview. Has the location of the gatehouse and the delays associated with the gatehouse been considered as part of the traffic study?
The proposed location of the gatehouse is roughly double the length of the existing gatehouse from the intersection. So there will be improvements, but however, the queuing and total distance of that queuing length is not indicated in the TAS, but that is something that has been requested.
What, if, say at a future date, 20 years from now, there becomes a challenge with that traffic extending onto public roads, what tools are in the town's toolbox to address a private impact on public traffic flow? Is this the one and only opportunity that we have as a regulatory agency to look at this from a impact on the public road system? Or if the gatehouse at a future date is causing backups into the public traffic lane, are there other tools at our disposal?
I would say that right now is the best opportunity to try to address that and mitigate that. However, if there are future impacts that are backing up into the public right-of-way and causing issues, then we still have the ability to address that with the property owner at that time.
Knowing what you know and having reviewed this plan, are you comfortable with, as proposed, are you comfortable with the flow of traffic and the location of the gatehouse relative to impacts on our public streets?
Yes, pending some additional information regarding anticipated queuing length from that gatehouse into the intersection.
And that is requested as the condition of approval?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet. Yes.
Thank you. I have one question also. Do we have an understanding of how much additional foot traffic might be associated with this scope of work we could expect to see coming off campus onto the campus?
I guess I would defer to the applicant. There was some information, but it was very generic as far as additional non-vehicular traffic generated to the site.
Okay, thank you.
Is now the appropriate time to talk about potential additional conditions of approval, or is that appropriate for later in this conversation?
Now is fine. Just for everybody's awareness, next we have the applicant team presentation, public comment, and then further discussion, motion second. So I think probably what we should do now is if you have outstanding questions relative to staff's presentation, ask them now. If it's a broader discussion pertaining to additional conditions of approval, probably after we get through public comment and the applicant team presentation.
I could go either way. I'll defer until a later point.
Any other questions, concerns? Planner Hornbeck, just one more confirmation relative to the white walls and the design characteristics. I personally think it would look ridiculous to have a different colored building attached to a historic hotel. I think it's been well designed. Can you confirm that the Colorado Historical Foundation has also made that distinction, that they would prefer the design in its current state to maybe how it would have to be designed if you don't grant a variance on the white walls and distinctive features?
They're supportive of the current design. I don't remember specific comments from them on white versus not, but they support the design.
I do have one additional question about emergency access, ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. If there is large queuing at that entrance, I noticed that there's a pull-out to go around that, but was there any discussion about ingress and egress of emergency vehicles during large events? And I'm in particular about egress if there needs to be an evacuation of some sort now that the other driveway has been removed. I'm just curious how much discussion has been about that individual event.
I don't know if any specific discussion has addressed that. As you mentioned, there is the bypass lane or kind of a pull-out area by the gatehouse that could allow for that, that ingress for emergency vehicles. There's also, 3 total access points in and out of this campus. So I do not know what EMS or the fire district has provided as far as comments to that.
Clarity question, Planner Hornbeck, this application was routed through fire, sanitation, RO, or typical? Okay.
Correct, and I don't believe we received any objections from the fire district.
No concerns expressed from the fire district.
Correct.
Other questions for staff? We can also come back at the end as well.
Just one clarifying question. There's a condition of approval recommending extensions of sidewalks, no indication of the width of those sidewalks. Is there an expectation? Has that been discussed with the applicant? Or is that something that would be addressed in the final construction plans?
I believe the Public Works letter attached in reference does specify widths.
Okay, I missed that then.
Other questions for staff at this point?
No.
All right, we will turn it over to the applicant team for their presentation.
Thank you, members of the TRC board. I'm Jack Mousseau, principal with MOA Architecture, working on behalf of SECFA and Space, who are the current owners of the Stanley Hotel, and John Cullen, who is the current development manager for the project and the former owner, as you all know, of the Stanley Hotel. Pleasure to be in front of you again. I've been in front of the TRC a number of times over the course of projects at the Stanley, including the Film Center, et cetera. So it's a pleasure to be back in front of you. We do have a short presentation, and Paul, I'm going to ask you to find it for me. And then some of the comments you've all had, I will address the ones that I specifically can as well. Great. Thank you, Paul. So again, thank you for hearing on the project and holding this TRC. The existing Stanley Master Plan in front of you illustrates a couple of things that I think are important to recognize. You can see south of the hotel and manor house that large dirt parking lot. When we refer to the temporary parking, that is what we're referring to. It's directly south of both the hotel and the manor house. It has always been a dirt, sometimes a little bit of gravel, mostly mud lot.
How long has that parking lot been used?
John, I'd refer to you on that.
That parking lot
As far as I
was
know.
owned by Frank Normale, so that was gotta be 80-something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Obviously,
Just sorry for the record, because I'm not sure if it picked up the 1980s,
Yeah.
roughly the 1980s.
Could be 70s. They were doing balloon launches there for timeshare.
Obviously, that is somewhat of an eyesore in front of the Stanley complex, both because it's a dirt, again, mostly mud lot, and it's right in front of the hotel. You can also see just to the west of it, the old pool complex, which is now cemented over, so it's just a concrete slab with the old pool buildings around it. And just to the south of it, there's a flat graded plain that was the old tennis courts. The pavement of the tennis courts has since been buried. It's still there, has earth over it, but it's not a natural landform. At the time that the hotel was originally built, this was all a natural environment. There was a golf course developed to the south of the hotel, if you're not familiar with the Stanley's history. And as John likes to say, what history? Because the Stanley has gone through so many modifications and changes over its lifetime. Those are elements we, as part of this project, really look to resolve and turn as much of the Stanley back to its original character and original design concepts as we possibly can with this project. The original entry drive, when the hotel was built, was also where approximately we are proposing this new entry drive to be, on access with the turnoff of Wonderview as Wonderview connects to Steamer Parkway. The original entry drive came straight up through the center of the campus and connected with the current paved parking lot just south of the manor house. You can see how those trees kind of line up. That was part of the one of the variations of that original entry drive, and there have been several. So returning the entry drive back to its original configuration within this master plan is one of the tenets of what we want to achieve here. Returning that area that we call the Great Lawn back to really a great lawn in the frontage of the hotel and manor house, and shifting the parking to the east. There is simply not area on the site to eliminate parking. You all know with the visitations during the summer season how many vehicles and the amount of attention that the Stanley gets. So having a reliable, certified, and a parking area that's now paved, has proper drainage, et cetera, gets rid of the mud and those sorts of things, but is shifted well to the east, so it's out of the line of sight directly of the frontage of the hotel, and is more consistent again with the original design intent of the Stanley is one of our strong purposes here. The new parking does accommodate both the required, code-required parking expansion for the hotel expansion, which is 82 stalls, as well as the relocation of the stalls that are currently in that temporary dirt lot. The hotel expansion, hotel and manor house expansion themselves are on the north side of the existing hotel and manor house, precisely as is defined within the Historic District Master Plan. So as Mr. Hornbeck pointed out, we really worked very closely with the Historic District Master Plan's design requirements and guidelines to ensure that we're in compliance ultimately with the building's location, site placement, as well as exterior design. As Mr. Hornbeck pointed out, we spent extensive time with Colorado Historical Foundation in the development of the design of the hotel expansion. The Historical Foundation selected a gentleman, Myrick Howard, who is a national historic preservation expert out of North Carolina. He's been the president of the National Historic Preservation Fund for many years as well. And Myrick worked virtually hand in hand with us over the course of 2.5 months as we developed and finalized both the building placement and the exterior design and collaboration between the existing hotel manor house and the new design of the expansion. It was actually a very productive and very positive collaboration with Mr. Howard. We've received full approval from Colorado Historic Foundation's board, who Myrick was a representative of. That letter was contained within the package. I think one of the comments was, did the CHS specifically direct or in their letter define their acceptance and recommendation of the white walls? I actually don't recall if that's specifically in the letter. If it's not, we're happy to follow up with a letter from CHF on that. It was absolutely their direction to keep it white and not vary the color, both of the roof of the expansion, which is the same red shingle roof, as well as the white exterior wall color. We are using on the hotel expansion the same cedar siding as the hotel and manor house. It's actually a cedar material, not a, for a lack of a better name, a trade name, hardy board or cementitious siding. It's actually cedar. Will look much like the existing hotel and manor house exterior skin materials as well. Paul had this drawing up, but this just shows the site extent of the hotel expansion is actually in 2 areas, the building itself and the parking to the north of it that is being developed, and then the relocation of the parking, the creation of the Great Lawn, the relocation of the entry drive, that kind of elephant shaped with its trunk sticking out as well. The southern portion, the parking and entry drive, also includes sidewalk development to provide connectivity back to town sidewalks and connectivity through the Stanley project as well. Yes, Mr. Wazinski.
Could you go back?
Yes.
Is there site development for grading the north part of that trunk?
To the north of the trunk, yes, that grading is being done as part of the film center.
Okay, not part
Actually-
of this scope.
Well, I mean, the two projects are very closely tied
Right.
because they're next door to each other. But the excavation of the film center is actually starting in, I think, 10 days. We have a permit for that work, and those spoils will come over to that area and start to be graded as part of that project. That's why it's not highlighted on the drawing here.
Yep, thank you.
As well as the demolition of the pool and the tennis courts are part of that project.
Thank you.
And please, members, if you have questions as I'm presenting here, I'd be happy to entertain them as I talk through. Again, this,
I did have I
yes.
have one
Mr.
question,
Greer.
since we're kind of on the topic of the Great Lawn.
Uh-huh.
What is the intent of use for that Great Lawn? Is it to be used for maybe large events with marquee tents, or is it just, how is it going to be used?
No current plan, but the Great Lawn in front of a hotel, always a great place for picnics and families and 4th of July and that kind of stuff. No structures.
I imagine the 4th of July fireworks are probably viewable from that
Be a
location.
pretty nice spot there.
Yeah, there's plenty of good places in this town to watch fireworks. The tree line there might be a little bit in the way, but it would be a great place for a family picnic for that.
Thank you, John. And then as I pointed out earlier on the site plan, this just makes it a little clearer. The components that exist today that we are demoing and returning back to more of their natural character, the pool, tennis court, and those existing parking stalls. They're about 75, depends, because there's no striping, et cetera. It depends on how closely people want to park their cars next to each other, but there's approximately 75 stalls in that area that we are relocating then further to the east. These are just a series of images of the hotel expansion. The first series shows the existing hotel and the expansion together and doesn't really define where that separation is. We wanted to give you two sets of images, one without an identification of where that separation is, so you get a better idea of the clarity of the overall development. And then I'll show you a series where we have grayed back the existing hotel so you can very clearly understand where the addition is, as well as the existing hotel. Some of the features of what we've designed, we've used what we call zippers. Everywhere that the existing buildings touch the new expansion, we've created a zipper. And what the zipper is we've very much minimized how much new construction is touching the existing and the historic building. Typically, it's just the width of the corridors, the guest room corridors, which is about 7 feet. The zippers step in to that corridor. The zipper is about 5 feet wide. The zipper is just an open space, as you saw in Paul's presentation. So we are very, very minimally touching the existing hotel and separating the two. That works very well for us for fire separation, as well as respects the historic integrity of the existing hotel and lodge and separates the buildings.
Jack, when I saw that on the submittal, question I had came to mind was, how you handle that landscape-wise, hardscape, and how you drain those small, thin areas.
Working with JVA, our civil engineer, Danielle Breedlove is here to represent them. Our grading plan and drainage plan both address those, as well as our interior courtyards and making sure that we are getting positive drainage from all of those areas. Some of that is piped drainage, especially the courtyards, to pipe that water out. And where we need to in those zipper spaces, we're doing the same.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Along those same lines, I have
yes,
another
Mr.
question. With snow and snow removal, especially in the courtyard, are there going to be heated pans or sidewalks to help with that drainage and remove that, or is it just going to be manually piled?
It's actually a combination of both. We've got sidewalk paving, heating in key areas where the sidewalk circulation areas, those will be heated sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah. Good questions. This series of images then shades out the existing building, so you can see more clearly. This is on the north side of the development. One of the, I think, very intentional aspects of what we've designed here is protecting those historic views from the town. We worked very closely again with Colorado Historical Foundation and shared a number of rendered views from the south. The hotel expansion is virtually invisible from the south. It's shielded by the existing hotel and by the manor house. The roof lines are at or below those of the existing hotel and manor house, so the building really is not seen from its south. So those historic views, when you come into Estes Park or when you're south of the hotel, virtually remain unchanged. Yes, Mr.
Where's the
Mahoney.
front door?
Where is our front door?
Yeah, the primary
Yeah.
access and entrance. Is that on the north side now?
That is on the north side. You
Okay.
can see the porte cochere on the rendering here.
Yep.
So it is a protected, covered entry. Recognizing it is on the north side, we are putting heated pavement there as well. Recognizing Estes Park has tough winters. So we're mitigating the effects of that as much as we can. And then the parking is pulled back. The majority of the parking is on the north side of that entry drive. There is a limited amount on the south side, which even that portion is pulled back from the building, so there's limited shade that would be on that parking. So the parking is predominantly, even in winter months, in sun.
So there's an abundance of parking on the south side of the existing structure. I imagine visitors are going to come and they're going to take the first available parking space and they're going to have to figure out how to navigate to the front door. Do you have wayfinding signage? Do you have sidewalks? How will someone who parks closer to Steamer Parkway get to the front door on the north side of the structure?
There will be site signage, directional signage for the different types of visitors that come to the Stanley. There are overnight guests, obviously. Signage will direct them around the west side of the property to this new entry for registered guests. So the intent is, right now, obviously, the Stanley has its main lobby on the south side in the historic hotel. All guests who are checking in for overnight stays would come to the new lobby on the north side. One of the issues that the Stanley historically has, because it is so popular in summer months, if you're a guest trying to check in and you're trying to make it to the check-in guests through that lobby, good luck. There are hundreds and hundreds of daytime visitors there that are just there to go on a tour, to explore the Stanley and check out its history and beautiful architecture, etc. So this is an opportunity to separate guest services from visitation services. So the new north lobby will be only for overnight guests. Visitors hopefully will not make their way there. They won't be signed there, and visitors would come to the south lobby. So road directional signage will indicate that for registered guests only, traffic to come and park on this side. A lot of the parking on this side will also be valet. So guests would come to the porte cochere, check in, their car would be taken to a parking stall via valet, etc.
Excellent answer. Thank
Those
you.
daytime visitors are predominantly on the south parking.
Okay.
Yep. So flipping through these are just a series of renderings. These have been in your packet, so I'm not going to dwell on these. Again, this has been a labor of love, again, both by ownership, MOA Architecture, and Colorado Historical Foundation to develop the design of the project. The ARC conditions of approval, which we had, was that last week? Feels like a lifetime ago. The variances that we're requesting, the white walls, we think that's a very reasonable variance, and would ask that that be passed by the TRC as well. It has full support, we believe, of all entities involved with the project. The new parking in front of the front facade of the hotel, again, we believe that is a significant betterment to the hotel to shift the parking further to the east and to reclaim the land that the current temporary parking is occupying and returning that back to much more of a natural landscape, returning the entry drive to its original historic location and configuration. And the parking that we are developing on that east side then, making that permanent parking so we get rid of issues with mud, uneven pavement or uneven mud surfaces. We give proper drainage to that parking then so it doesn't become an issue long term. We've separated those lots with significant bands of landscaping rather than creating a target parking lot in front of this beautiful complex. That's why we separated those lots out with approximately 25 feet of landscaping between. They'll also be on different tiers as the topography dictates, so they're not in alignment vertically. The conditions of approval that are listed here and were part of the ARC's presentation, we take no objection to. There are a couple I do want to just address. I think most of them are fairly understandable on how we'll address, but a couple of them, the trees and the, I'm trying to see which one it was.
Number 2, Jack?
Number 2, yeah, thank you. I appreciate your help. The significant tree loss, we are still in exploration of what that, the number of trees will be. And the reason we're exploring that somewhat is we're still looking at the geometry of our new entry drive and trying to configure that in a way that preserves as many trees in that area as possible. And then the retaining wall to the north of the hotel, I'll talk about in just a minute. But we're looking at some landscape opportunities and design opportunities that may be able to preserve some more trees in that area. What I will say about tree removal is we will be providing and planting about 4 times the number of trees that will be removed in the design and implementation of this project. So we're well and above the number of trees that are being removed again by about 4 times. This is that, just a couple of very simple graphics of ideas that we're exploring for that north retaining wall. There are 2 parking lots there. The south parking lot, which the current parking lot is in the footprint of the hotel expansion. So we're shifting that parking lot about 25 feet to the north. And then the north parking lot, which is about 15 feet above the south parking lot, stays in its current location. The south parking lot will raise about 3 feet in elevation. So the retaining wall that Mr. Hornbeck identified is actually going to be about 12 feet tall, we believe. We are looking at designing it in a series of tiers rather than a single vertical wall. Whether that's going to end up being 3 tiers or 2 tiers, we're exploring currently with the geometry of that space. Part of it I can envision being 3 tiers. Part of it would be 2 tiers. It's not a 12-foot continuous retaining wall. It starts at about 2 feet on its east side, goes up to a maximum height of 12 feet at its not even center point, but further to the east or further to the west, and then drops back down to 2 feet. So we believe by stepping that wall, by facing it with stacked stone, so it feels much in character to other stone walls on the Stanley, and then the separation of those staggered walls will mitigate the concerns of its look and character quite a bit. We are also exploring planting those terraces if we can get enough separation between the staggered walls that we can provide vegetation that would help that as well. And then on the left-hand side diagram, you can also see we're looking at providing a number of tree islands in the lower parking lot that aren't there today to help again, break up the face of that wall with trees at a regular rhythm in front of the wall itself. Yes, Mr. Wozniacki?
With regard to the retaining walls, are there technical limitations to how high those walls can be?
Depends on how much you want to spend for structure. I wouldn't say there are technical limitations, they just become more expensive. Obviously, if it's a single 12-foot tall wall at its highest, the footing's gonna have to go back quite a ways for the overturning. So it's helpful to break the wall up in a number of tiers versus a singular wall. It's less costly from a structural standpoint. I think it's a much better looking wall. So those are some of the things we're looking at.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Greer.
I appreciate you breaking up that wall, and aesthetically, it will be a lot more pleasing, I think. The concern I have is you're reducing that sidewalk on the top from 7 to 5. The park, are you gonna have curb stops for those parking spots so they don't actually come up to the curb of the sidewalk and block part of the sidewalk?
Yeah, there would be curb stops for those
Okay.
stalls. I did talk with, I can recognize Jennifer Waters. Jennifer and I talked about this sidewalk yesterday.
Okay.
And the town's thoughts on us reducing it from a 7-foot sidewalk to a 5-foot sidewalk. The only element this sidewalk serves, and it's, if I can use the mouse, the sidewalk we're talking about is right here.
Right.
That sidewalk only serves the 28 parking stalls in front of her, right behind it. There's no other site circulation that sidewalk serves. So reducing its 7-foot width, which is a substantially wide sidewalk, and typically by town standards only used where there is significant public circulation, I wouldn't call this significant public circulation. It's serving 28 parking stalls, and the likelihood of all 28 cars parking at the exact same time is 0. So reducing that to a 5-foot wide sidewalk to serve those 28 stalls we feel is appropriate. Ms. Waters agreed with this. If I can speak to you, if I speak incorrectly, please tell me. But what that does is it allows us an extra 2 feet to fit the retaining wall and the steps in the retaining wall. So we think it's again a betterment to the project to take those extra 2 feet. If we can, by having those 2 feet, get 3 steps in that wall, it's going to, I think, be a much better result for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just want to make sure that we have those curb stops.
Yep.
So,
And
thank you.
Jack, one question as I look at this, and this is more in a detail element here, working with your shipment, or whether you're gonna need to put some kind of drainage behind those walls, at the bottom of the wall, and daylight it out for any water that may come up against those retaining walls.
We'll absolutely explore the
Yeah.
civil drainage requirements for
Right.
that wall as well. JVA, our civil engineers, been on all of our design calls and leading the development and design along with our structural engineer of that wall system,
Right.
both structurally and from a drainage standpoint.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to confirm that I'm understanding the previous conversation regarding wheel stops.
Yes.
It's unusual to see a wheel stop put in a paved parking lot when there's vertical curb. Were you proposing to put in a wheel stop 2 feet away or some distance away from the vertical curb?
I guess I would say we're not opposed to putting wheel stops. If that's, if we all feel the curb is not an adequate barrier. The only issue with just the curb is if a vehicle with a high bumper that is higher than the curb parks and that front of the car overhangs onto the sidewalk. I think that's Mr. Greer's concern.
Yeah, and that's why I'm diving into this in a little more detailed fashion. Typically, the curb is sufficient, and you would lose 2 feet of your sidewalk width due to bumper overhang. So your 5-foot walk is going to function as a 3-foot sidewalk. If you want to go to the trouble and eliminate that and put wheel stops in there, now you have an object that's in the way of your snow plowing. So I'm not sure that's the best solution.
We're happy to continue that discussion with Public Works and come to an agreeable solution. for
That'd
all
be
of us.
great. I think typically you'd want to have a 4-foot functional width on that sidewalk for those in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And if you have a 5-foot walk that's reduced to 2, now you're left with 3 feet of space, so it becomes insufficient for the wheelchair user. But rather than resolve it now, if you're receptive to ongoing dialogue with Public Works, I think that's
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely. And this is a private parking lot, so
Right.
snow removal is
Yeah,
encompassed.
it's not our
It's not
issue,
a-
but I'm looking out for your maintenance folks.
I appreciate that. Any other questions on this issue? Hopefully that gives you some level of comfort on how we're starting to look and address that. And in our final package, TRC submittal will have the final development of what we're proposing for this wall and the parking. There were a number of comments regarding the traffic information study and the parking ops comments. I do have Cassie Slade from Fox Tuttle here as well. So if there are any specific issues within those comments, we're happy to address those. It seemed that most of these were more data-related questions than they were questioning the design. Some of the information that is requested in these comments, we are happy to provide. In fact, all of it we're happy to provide. We did not find anything in the comments objectionable. Some of the comments referred to, I think, the pedestrian traffic movements. Because this is a hotel expansion and the predominance of people utilizing the hotel expansion are arriving by car because there's overnight guests. We didn't put as much emphasis on the pedestrian movements. That was really addressed in the Film Center TRC and traffic information or traffic impact study. We're happy to go back to that information as well as update it for any pedestrian movements associated with this building, but we feel very comfortable that pedestrian movements are taken care of very well with our sidewalk plans. There are a few comments, obviously, in the conditions of approval that Public Works has added and recommends that we'll address here in just a minute as well. The queuing analysis that was discussed a few minutes ago as well for the front entry drive we'll be happy to provide. We do believe we will meet the queuing study. The traffic information study, as I was reminded by Ms. Slade, was the counts were done on the busiest day of the busiest weekend of the year, which is Elk Fest. So that was done last year. So the very, very worst case scenario we believe is represented within the traffic information study. Every day other than Elk Fest is a better day in terms of traffic. You guys live, many of you live here, you know that. So we're happy to address that. What I will say about the traffic control building, the shack, for lack of a better term, that we will be relocating. As one of you pointed out, the distance from the intersection to that shack is much greater in the new design. We are providing also I'm gonna jump ahead here just a sec to a drawing here. We are also providing a bypass lane for incoming traffic. And the bypass lane, the way guest check-in or guest reservations work at the Stanley is if you are a guest and you've reserved a room, you're also giving a parking code at that time via email. With that parking code, you can use that bypass lane. There'll be a swipe station there with a swing arm on the right-hand lane. So many vehicles coming in will not need to stop at the shack. They can bypass it. Residents that live in the overlook condos would also have that same ability. So those vehicles coming into the property will bypass. They won't even need to stop other than to swipe their card. The parking shack is also only manned during busy times, during the busy season. And it's the Stanley's prerogative to free flow parking. So if parking does potentially get backed up or there's a concert or something and for some reason everybody seems to arrive at the same time, if we need to free flow parking in to relieve that congestion and prevent it from going on to city streets, we can do that.
Let me put some hard facts to it. 52.8% of the people going through the gate are non-revenues. And those are hotel guests, Those are members of 80517 Club. If you're a local member, you get in free. If you're a hotel guest, you get in free. If you're a wedding guest, you get in for free. If you're an overlook person, you get in for free. And so instead of those people queuing up behind that person that has to have a 20-minute explanation of what that $5 coin means, those people now have a direct bypass. I think that this bypass will eliminate more than 2/3 of all of our backups. I'm also working with the other hotels about our events, and that their goal is that they want to be part of our ticketing package system so that they buy a concert tickets. Well, that means they get to have a shuttle bus from their hotel, get preferred status, and don't park at the Stanley Hotel in the first place. Leave your cars, have a drink, and have your own shuttle back to your own hotel. I think we're going to eliminate 80% of the traffic issues going through that gate by doing just those two things. Third thing is I've talked to all the emergency services people. They'll have electronic thing that automatically raises the gate. They go through that. I thought we were going to have 30. I understand we now have to have 50 of those types of clickers that go on the front of every fire engine, every police car, and blow through the line. We'll solve it. We're going to solve a lot of that by restoring this back to the 1920 entrance to the hotel.
And, yes, Mr. McCoy.
Question, the gate is only on the entrance side of the island. The
That's
exit
correct.
side is ungated.
You can leave, you can check out, but you can always leave.
So to that point, an emergency responder could always go contraflow up the other
They
side.
can go any way they want.
Right.
We're not stopping them.
We have, Mr. Mahonen, met with Estes Valley Fire several times. That was one of the comments I think one of you made, maybe it was you, Mr. Honan, on emergency vehicle egress into the property. So we have met with Estes Valley Fire several times with our plan. They're very comfortable with how we've planned access. As you said, there are 3 points of access onto the property. We've followed all of their recommendations and directions for emergency vehicle access. The last thing I'll point out is, again, with the addition, with the expansion of the hotel, overnight guests coming to the Stanley will not need to go up the new access drive and to the parking. They will turn left and go west on Steamer Parkway, come around and access the hotel from that side. So we're also serving to separate visitors from guests, which hasn't ever happened before. Right now, everybody comes to the same place. We're taking about half the load and moving it in a different direction on Steamer Parkway and around.
And Jack, there will be signage to that effect if somebody comes up and doesn't know the traffic pattern that they need to take. The signage will direct them to that as well.
Absolutely. Signage will, the person at the parking control building will. There are lots of stopgap measures to help people. There's also, you can see right behind the parking control shack, there's a return road. Sometimes someone comes up and doesn't want to pay the $5 or $10 for parking. They can turn and quickly exit off the property as well.
Question while we're on this sheet.
Yeah.
With the introduction of the north leg to this intersection, will this intersection operate with two-way or four-way stop control? Are you going to have stop signs on the north and south legs or all four legs?
I'm going to let Cassie. Yep.
Four-way
Four
stop
directions.
control.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we are still finalizing exactly, especially what the exit off of the Stanley property look like. This is our current thinking. You can see in this drawing, we had a small kind of triangular island between, on the exit for one lane to make the left-hand turn, the other lane to either go straight ahead or make a right-hand turn. We feel this type of a solution is actually better to get rid of that island. We're trying to ensure that traffic coming north and turning to the west is not getting confused for a southbound person coming out of the Stanley with someone also turning to the left. We're trying to make sure that is a very safe intersection, even though it's a four-way stop. So,
I'm delighted to see that proposed change.
Good.
I'm concerned that when we vote on this and if we approve it, we're approving the conceptual drawings that were in the packet, which I did not see this particular civil sheet.
this is still.
So
as
are
develop.
will our approval include sufficient flexibility for Public Works to work with the applicant and modify the geometric details of this intersection. I want to make sure the approval doesn't lock us into the imagery and the geometry shown in the conceptual plans in the packet.
I agree with you, Mr. Mahoney, because this isn't final.
Right.
Even though this is our preferred direction. What I would say is a conditional approval, again, based on continuing development and coordination with Public Works and the finalization of this intersection is fine with us. And with our final TRC package and presentation, this will be completed and you can give final.
So we're going to see this one
approval
more
of that.
time at the final stage?
This is the preliminary package. There will
Okay.
be a final package, and Town Engineer Whitwer, if you want to weigh in on the town side, I believe there is the sufficient flexibility as we approach that final package, but it's good to get the answer directly.
Absolutely, we'll take note of that comment, whether it's a condition today or not, and make sure that we work with the applicant on this preferred layout.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for responding to that question.
And I have one follow-up question to that too. The south side of the intersection, which is off your property, I have some concerns about the configuration similar to what you have for the southbound traffic. I know, is there still opportunity to make some adjustments to that, I guess, an off-site improvement, if we need to work on that northbound approach?
I think it's imperative that we be able to include that in the conversation for the intersection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
we're not we don't object to that. We would prefer the town pay for those improvements since they're off-site. If there are concerns with the town's current configuration and geometry there, we'll certainly entertain those comments.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump back up to where I was, so give me just a second. I think those are the primary observations on the comments for the traffic information study. Kathy, you have anything else? So all of those comments we're happy to address in the final package and update the TIS with those requests. There were a number of comments, again, by Keller Engineering, who is the town's consultant that reviewed that. Again, we'll address each of those comments in the final package. Public Works also provided a number of comments on our preliminary TRC package. Much like the TIS comments, we have no objection to comments, but we do want to discuss the 3 conditions of approval that were provided. Those are the highlighted ones here. The rest of the comments are easy enough for us to address within our civil site drawings, etc. The conditions of approval on from Public Works included 3 items. One was concrete curb and gutter along the north side of Steamer Parkway along Lot 1. Item B was a sidewalk on the northeast corner of the new entrance. And item C was an extension of an existing concrete sidewalk on the north side of Lot 4 of the property. So I've highlighted those on this site plan. Number 1 is the curb and gutter. You can see it extends from the east side where the town's just actually very recently put new curb and gutter, and it stops approximately at the property line of the Stanley on the east side. Then it's just a rolled asphalt curb going around to where you can see on the west side. I've stopped that highlight. We are willing to provide that curb and gutter as part of our approval in the project as defined within the Public Works comments. I think it's 24-inch gutter pan and then the curb. So that will match the city standard along that side of the property. That won't go in till the very end of the project. I want to make that clear to everybody. So that we aren't damaging it through other construction. So it'll be a couple years out before that's implemented, but we will be happy to provide that. Comments 2 and 3 I've highlighted. Comment 2 is the sidewalk extension on Lot 4. So Lot 4 is on the south side of Steamer Parkway. We feel this being off of the development property of the hotel expansion is really not a component of what we're looking at doing. It's not associated, nor does it touch or connect to the Stanley property that we're working on. You can see on this drawing are sidewalk connections that are a part of the work we're doing, or trail connections. The sidewalk that we are extending on the north side of Steamer Parkway that connects all the way up to the Aspire, and that existing sidewalk that then kind of has the snake tail and goes north towards the carriage house. That is being provided with this project. The red sidewalks that go north or are within our new parking area are part of this project. The blue trail on the west side, which is a current crush refine trail, we're improving that trail as well. Those are all improvements that are on the site of Lot 1 and are part of what we are doing. We feel comment 2 is off of that site. We've had discussions with Mr. Cullen about this sidewalk and feel it's more appropriate that that sidewalk extension is done at one of two times. One, at the point that the city provides their sidewalk improvements coming from the south and going around that conservation easement that would connect to the yellow highlight here. That would be the appropriate time for the Stanley ownership then to put that sidewalk in. Otherwise, it's just a sidewalk again to nowhere. It's going to mislead pedestrians. They're going to continue to walk down a sidewalk that then again ends in a dirt undeveloped area. Object number 3 is a request to provide us a very short connection from our new sidewalk that parallels Steamer Parkway to a future pedestrian crossing of Steamer Parkway. Again, we feel this would be an improvement best left to the time that the town's sidewalk on the south side of Steamer Parkway is implemented. Otherwise, we're providing a sidewalk and a handicap curb ramp to indicate you can cross Steamer Parkway, but you're not crossing to anywhere. There's no sidewalk on the other side. We feel that would actually be a safety concern because you're inviting people essentially by having a sidewalk to cross the street, but you cross it to nowhere. So they're going to get across on the south side of Steamer Parkway, wonder, where do I go from here? Cross back to the north, try to figure out where they're going. So those are 2 sidewalk improvements we feel are more appropriate to put in place at the same time that the city sidewalk is in.
I'd also like to make a request. There's several different state organizations involved here. So Space is the owner of the Stanley campus. Lot 4 is technically not part of TRC. It's actually not part of the Stanley Historic District. It's part of the town of Estes Park, which makes that a little bit more interesting too. The third part is that Lot 4, the undeveloped portion, is actually under a 99-year lease to OEDIT, the Governor's Office for Economic Development and International Trade. They're going to be hitting up the town with a development plan in the next year or so for the remaining portion of Lot 4. Let's stay out of Lot 4. It's 3 different state organizations. Let's keep Lot 4 into a separate category. It's not part of TRC. It's part of town. It's part of the ownership, but it's under a 99-year lease to OEDIT. I got 4 different owners on that one. Let's keep Lot 4 out of that.
Thank you, John. You answered my question about what's planned for Lot 4. And we don't know, but thank you.
Thank you. So that addresses the 3 additional conditions of approval that Public Works identified. I'm not going to dwell on these. These were just supporting civil site plans in case we needed to talk about them. We already talked about the new entry drive and the proposed configuration of that intersection. The last piece was the drainage report. I need to give compliments to JVA. It's the first time from the town of Estes Park that I've seen a comment that says this preliminary report is well done and is acceptable. So that's terrific. There were very few comments on the drainage report. They're all clerical in nature, and we'll address each of those. So with that, unless there are other questions I can specifically address at this time.
Mr. Musso, a couple pertaining to the parking lot. Appreciate the Colorado Historical Foundation's comments on the landscaping pieces to break that up. That's something I appreciate as well. There are a lot of renderings in here of the hotel itself. Is it possible for you and your team to develop that kind of view corridor of the current picture from, let's just say, Steamer Avenue up towards the hotel with the dirt parking lot and everything, and then a rendering of what it will look like with the plantings and a full parking lot, so that we have a really good understanding of that trade-off and visual impact? My impression is it's going to be a much nicer appeal from Steamer Parkway, but I do think it would be valuable. It's sometimes hard to grasp from the overhead picture what that is actually going to look like when it's in full use and the plantings are in full form.
We actually have, as well as the town of Estes Park, several thousand postcards from 1920. It'll look exactly like that.
So yes, we can provide in the final package a rendering from, I think you're talking approximately right here.
Yeah.
Looking up to the hotel across now, which will be the Great Lawn. One of the things we've done in the development of this is
Jack, sorry, can you step closer to that microphone just so
I'm
it's
sorry,
picking you up?
apologize.
Yeah,
We've raised the entry drive in elevation a little bit above the surrounding grade, so you get those highlighted views of the hotel as you're coming up that entry drive. We'll make it more dramatic and a really significant, I think, improvement, but happy to provide a rendering, comparison rendering between those.
So it'll look exactly like the period of 1920 to 1956 before they put in that Sheraton pool that we're demolishing. This actually was, believe it or not, the first and 18th hole of the golf course. And no, we're not going to put back the sand traps to make it a truly historic, but it will be a nice piece of flat ground. And the Colorado Historic Foundation truly supports this, where we're restoring that original grand view as you come up.
yeah, and I did appreciate those. Those letters were helpful for me in assessing the historical aspect. It sounds like the visual view of the hotel from the south is going to be significantly improved. And I think that last little bit for me is seeing the comparison.
Absolutely.
Here's what it looks like now with the dirt lot and everything, the pool, and here's what it's going to look like with the actual parking and operation, how it's planned here. Because I do think that sufficient parking is one of the most critical aspects of this lot. And it's very clear that there is nowhere else to put this north of the hotel facade. So because that's one of the two kind of variance items, a little more information there would help seal that for me.
Happy.
The Colorado Historic Foundation shares that exact same view, that understanding that grand arrival, sense of arrival back to that, and getting rid of all those cars, getting rid of that pool, getting rid of that other disturbance, it'll look more or less like the exact golf course that it was back in the 1920s.
One really minor one, and then a couple of questions for staff, but I'll hold those until after public comment. On page 9 of the Stanley Hotel and Manor House expansion TRC submission, September 29th, 2025, it's a version of a PowerPoint. It talks about signage locations, and
Yes, sir.
it says the entrance to the Stanley Hotel and Manor House expansion will include the relocation of the existing monument sign currently located at the entrance to the campus off of Steamer Parkway. The entrance sign will be relocated, reconstructed to the center island of the existing roadway linking Wonderview Ave with Steamer Parkway. So that's where our current town-owned monument sign is. And I know we've been having conversations about the landscaping around that sign. So my question is really the space that says this sign will be replaced with one identifying the Stanley as a monument sign versus the Stanley Historic District. And that, I don't think this submittal and this approval is making a decision on that. I do want to note that that is town property, and I think there is probably a policy conversation to have about what that sign says. Because if we move away from the Stanley Historic District signage to just the Stanley, that's not an inconsequential change in my view, given the relevance to the district specifically with regard to this body. So I just wanted to call that out and ensure that this submittal and this approval, while it's referencing signage discussions, does not have any impact on the town-owned property there between Steamer and Wonderview.
I totally concur. I think it's an open topic, and we'll figure that out. The current plan is to take the Stanley, with the words "the Stanley," which is on the north corner, down to our property and put yet a second sign. Maybe the better answer is something else, and we'll work with the town on what is Plan B.
Absolutely.
Staff, any comments on the submittal piece of that? We're not making a decision here with regard to that piece on town property. I just want to be clear because I know the TRC is kind of a unique animal.
That's correct, Chair Mahalik. I think it would be advantageous with the final package to have some of those details where the TRC could approve those.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions before we go to public? Go ahead.
My one last comment is I'd like to actually finish the master plan here and basically say this might be the last TRC meeting, and try and find out a way to let's sort of end this Stanley Historic District master plan TRC concept. And so if we can finish out the one remaining parcel, which is up in the northwest corner, the quote-unquote boneyard, there really is no Stanley Historic District left or reason for TRC to exist. And so let's just figure that out as a larger, separate conversation.
And I do have a follow-up question for the design team from what I'd asked staff earlier. Do you have an indication of how much more foot traffic this addition may be adding to the site?
Again, I think I talked about that just briefly earlier. Because this is a hotel expansion and the predominance of people using the hotel expansion are arriving by vehicle, you don't come with your suitcase to stay overnight at the hotel. We anticipate very little additional foot traffic for the hotel expansion. There's significant additional foot traffic, we believe, for the film center, which was addressed in the TRC and traffic information study of the film center, but virtually zero for the hotel expansion.
They wouldn't be leaving the campus once they're on campus is sort of the idea. Pedestrians wouldn't be walking off campus if they were residents.
I'm sure they will be to go to town, et cetera. We're only expanding by 65 rooms, so 2 guests per 65 rooms, 130 people. They're not all walking at the same time. So again, that's why I say it's very minimal in terms of the foot traffic expansion. But you, in the drawings that I've shared, you saw the number of sidewalks that we're providing to continue connectivity around the Stanley campus as part of this project. We're more than confident and comfortable that we're accommodating the additional 130 pedestrians that we're adding with this project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mahoney.
If you could please, could you go back to the slide that contained the Sean Keller comments on the traffic impact study? All right, let me lead with, wow, this is a grand vision. It's a grand project. I'm very impressed with it. I do support the 2 variances that were talked about, and I think it's important that we do everything we can to make sure that this project operates successfully from a traffic standpoint. Mm-hmm. And looking through Mr. Keller's comments, be the 3rd bullet point, he identifies a level of service F operation where Steamer Parkway intersects Wonderview. What are your thoughts on mitigating that, and what should we expect to see in the final package?
Okay. Would you mind if I invite Ms.
Not
Slade
at all.
to
That's
come up?
absolutely fine.
I only pretend to be a traffic expert. She is one.
Thank you for the comment. remember that one movement is on a Saturday in Elkfest. And so there's obviously very much more, a higher a level of delay that's going to be anticipated there. In those times, we will have to work with the town to figure out what that looks like and why that's happening, and then address it at that time when and if that is occurring. At this time, we're still meeting the standards for the Larimer County traffic level services for that movement.
Well, a level of service F would not comply with the Larimer County standards.
It does. I have it up in front of me actually it's considered a minor intersection, and so it is allowed to have a level service F on any movement.
So it's a one movement only, it's not the leg?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So we should not expect to see really any mitigation when the final package comes forward?
We don't have a mitigation for that.
Thank you.
Other comments?
I have maybe a comment and a question.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate the gate system that you're putting in with electronic passes. I think that's a great idea. I want to highly encourage that. Also like the idea of the shuttles to bring people in for drinking and things like that, be able to come back.
Yep.
I highly encourage to really push for that. I think that those are great ideas. And then just a minor thing, and this may just be because of where I'm from, but the tree removal that counts, it sounds like you're just referring to number of trees and not number of inches of diameter of trunks.
They're
Is that
actually, they will be specified by diameter. I've been working with Paul Hornbeck on diameter. I think it's a 4-foot diameter for deciduous trees, 8-foot diameter at breast height for coniferous trees, or
Okay, and
considered
so you're
significant
replacing
trees.
4 times the amount of diameter?
I'm sorry?
Are you replacing or planting 4 times the amount of diameter of trees that you're removing? Or is it just number of trees? I'm just
Number of
curious.
trees, yeah,
Okay.
number of trees. Caliper of the trees we're planting, I don't know, we've determined what caliper per tree we're putting in, but I can certainly put that in the final package. Identify caliber and new trees.
If I could comment on that, I thought I saw in the package there was a recommendation on the size of caliper of those trees.
Yeah, the
they
second
have-
proposed condition is the final package shall quantify the proposed loss of significant trees, which I believe is trees with more than 4 inches of diameter,
4 inches for deciduous, 8 inches for coniferous.
Okay.
and how that loss will be offset with the new plantings.
Correct.
So it's unlikely to have a true like for like, but there'll be a back and forth about how to
Yeah.
replace the loss of those significant trees.
Yeah, as I said, we're anticipating 4 times as many trees to be planted as we're removing. I think the only question is the number of coniferous versus deciduous. We'll be providing, most of the trees we'll provide back are probably pine trees because they're more native to the property. The caliber of those trees, the diameter of the trees we're putting in, I don't think we've confirmed yet.
I would encourage the same number of diameter of inches that you're removing, that you replace, the same number of diameter. So if you take an 8-inch diameter tree, you put in 4 2-inch trees.
I get you, okay.
Yeah. So I just
Appreciate that
wanted-
clarification.
yeah.
That won't be a problem. Yep.
I figured it wouldn't be, I just wanted, okay.
I'm
thank
glad you clarified it, though. I wasn't thinking of it that way, so
Okay,
happy to look at it that way.
8 inches.
right,
Any
yeah.
other questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
All right, we will move to public comment. Is there, can I get a show of hands of who would like to make public comment? Okay, one public comment. Come on down. I'll give you 5 minutes, and please introduce yourself with name and address.
Yeah, Lubor Manov, I live on Steamer Court area of the Steamer Parkway. And so obviously we're kind of concerned mostly about traffic in that area. And I think some of that was kind of answered. That's the intersection at Steamer Parkway with Steamer Parkway Southwest, I believe that connection is called. So there will be 4-way all way. That's definitely better than what it's now. And also I was curious about that the gatehouse, so I didn't see it on the plan before, so it's like, hooray, it's not there. But apparently it will be there, so hopefully the queue won't be as long as, on the existing one. Now, one clarification on the access to check-in or main entrance. So now I understand actually that all the hotel guests for check-in will be arriving via westbound Steamer Parkway, meaning, to get up there, which now is basically almost off limits for guests. So is that the only access? Do you understand that? Or would there be access through other means, through other roads?
So just so you know, we don't, we won't go back and forth in public comment, but we'll take note of your
okay. Well,
questions,
that's-
and
so
I
that's
believe
what
the
I was wondering,
applicant will respond to that.
Kind of
but
getting if
continue,
what's your
continue.
understanding? And as far as foot traffic, it's nice to see the added sidewalks. I'm just surprised that there is no pedestrian or kind of modern pedestrian connection down to Stanley Village or Safeway, so just kind of eroded pathways. I think some of the guests, I see them kind of walking through that area, or going through wandering through the meadows, getting there. So it eventually might need some improvements. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we will move on to committee discussion, motion second, and a vote. First, if the applicant could clarify on the check-in, please. I believe there is one access to the property proposed with this realignment, and then the check-in will go into that access just like it does now on the east side.
Same system, same process as we have now. Everybody checks in through that one central gate area. Everything that goes to the west is either deliveries or Tesla drivers, which we can't seem to get Google to get the Tesla drivers to get to that lot. So we are organizing it so that Tesla drivers have their own code on the west side. But other than that, there's no westbound check-in to the hotel. You have to go up the main entrance, only one way in.
And with the signage plan, it's going to be very much more clear probably where that main entrance is.
You can't miss it. There's no extra turns. You go straight into the property.
Okay, thank you.
They had it right in 1920. We screwed it up.
That sounds different than what I thought I heard from Mr. Musso.
What's that?
Okay.
There is no westbound check-in. There is no way to go around the other property. That's all deliveries on the westbound.
Will there be a gate on that west leg?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That one automatically by pressure sensor opens up just as it does now. The only ones that have requested actually access to go through that way is town transportation to change the red route or blue route or green route, whatever it is, so that they can come up there and avoid and drop off people up top. And so right now we're frying them down on the bottom of the hill here, waiting in the rain and cold and sun protection factor 6. The town's actually requested that process.
Questions for either the applicant or town staff? I do have a question for staff on that condition of approval 10B, that off-site sidewalk that runs along the north side of Lot 4. What's the thought process behind that being a condition of approval for this project?
Sure. So one condition of approval for any development is looking at connectivity to existing pedestrian pathways. So this property has one existing connection to off-site, which is the furthest west sidewalk that goes down to the McGregor roundabout. So looking at future connections and town planned projects, that's why we're requesting that property frontage be extended to the limits of the town property, so that when the town comes forward with our sidewalk program, we can make that connection. Similarly, why we're asking for the pedestrian ramp on the north side, so that when we come in, there's not a gap or a missing piece of that pedestrian crossing.
And this is only, I mean, effectively, the only way to recommend this is because the properties are all owned by the same entity. Because if this was, let's say, Lot 4 was owned by a different business, and Lot 1, Parcel 1 of this that we're talking about today was owned by Business C,
No.
you would require Business C to build a sidewalk across the road.
No, historically, we could ask for any off-site improvements that make pedestrian connections, whether the property is owned by the applicant or not.
Okay. Does this make a connection though? Because it only covers part of the north side of that Lot 4.
It sets us up for the town property, the town project to make that connection. If we come in, the town comes in 2026, 2027, during or slightly after the completion of this project, there would be a gap.
Can I add a comment? But from what I heard is that the applicant would complete that once you are planning yours and get that in, they will go ahead and provide that connection and that ramp. So it's not like they're not going to provide it, correct, at some time. It seemed like, for me, timing would be better if it was all done at one time. That's just my opinion.
Sure, and we're ensuring that connection is made by requiring it with this development. So the timing piece can be discussed, but the requirement of making that connection is what we're asking for with this project.
Can you confirm that this is, the improvements that we're talking about, are those on private property or are they in the right of way?
They would be in the right of way.
Okay, thank you.
So the risk to the town, if we strike 10B, is that we go into this area prior to there being any sort of development on Lot 4, and we have a sidewalk that does not connect back to the east to the other sidewalk products, unless we want to pay for it. So if the town goes in with a project and there's no movement or on anything on Lot 4, we could still ourselves, because it's right away, we could still ourselves pay for that connection. We're saying here we're going to put it on the applicant for this parcel.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions about that? I've got some concern about that expansion, just because there's no, I understand what we're trying to do. I support, sorry, I've been referencing B and I think I meant to reference C. Yeah, so I think I support B, even though it leads to a sidewalk to nowhere. We do that frequently. There are plenty of those outside of town or around town, but we know that it's eventually going to get there. I'm having a little more difficulty with C, just it seems a little more removed. It's not connecting to anything right now. We have a planned project in that area. I'm not sure we would require this for another developer if this wasn't a joint ownership parcel. So I'm still thinking that through, but that's I'm a little uncomfortable with how C is worded right now. Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
It's going back to the Great Lawn. Can we confirm that the bluegrass vegetation, is that optional or is it required to be bluegrass?
I believe bluegrass is only permitted on parcels 1 and 3, but it's not required.
Correct, yes.
And I heard from the applicant that there is no plans for bluegrass on the Great Lawn.
I haven't figured out what the soil is or budget is for that, or the picnic ability of that area there. I've got to get somebody to say what's going to grow there the fastest, and whether that turf is native grown something or else that other than bluegrass is my preference. But I got to find an acre and a half of turf. So I don't know what goes there right now. It's not going to be seed because it takes forever to grow up here.
So just to clarify, there's nothing in either the master plan or the TRC conditions that would prohibit bluegrass. It's really at the applicant's discretion, except there can't be other non-native plantings.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for staff or the applicant?
No.
Relative to the conditions, any further discussion about additions or modifications to the conditions prior to moving forward to a vote, consideration of a motion? We do have a resolution in front of us that lays out those conditions, so if we are going to modify any of those conditions, we would need to do so by referencing the resolution and which condition we're proposing to add or modify, and making sure that we have a very succinct and articulate motion such that we don't have to come back and try to modify something on the fly.
So maybe just a clarification on the resolution. If we were to approve it as it's written, it states there's a condition upon submittal, review, and approval by the TRC of the final package. So we are going to see all this again, and things that were discussed today may or may not make it into the final package, and we'll have an opportunity to approve it or not at that time. Is that, did I get my understanding correct?
Yes, I guess the way I'm understanding your question is, if we approve this resolution, let's take the example we were just talking about, that 175 feet of sidewalk. If we approve this resolution as is, does that lock in the 175 feet of sidewalk, or does that leave that open for discussion as we move towards a final package?
Thank you for stating that more clearly than I did.
Or is it unclear?
It may be unclear, but my interpretation would be that there would be an expectation that things do change between preliminary and final. And I think it could be decided by TRC at the final whether or not to stick to these conditions that are approved today.
I am going to suggest that we strike 10C, which is that additional off-site sidewalk. I would like us to continue those discussions about connectivity, but it does not feel fair to me, for lack of a better word, to put that piece of potential development in place right now, as it is not directly related to the development that we're talking, in my eyes, it's not directly related to the development we're talking about now. I would leave 10B, which is that south connection with the curb ramp. Are there other thoughts about modifications to those conditions within TRC Resolution 125?
I don't have any.
I don't either.
So I would entertain a motion at this point, and I believe the motion, if the desire is to strike 10C, would be a move to approve TRC Resolution 0125, striking 10C.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Town clerk, as we work towards a roll call vote, please. Thank you.
We are working through these technical difficulties. Mahonen,
Yes.
Wineski,
Yes.
Mahonen, Mahalik,
Lots of MUHs. Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
All right, I believe that does it for today, and
Did we
It
do
is-
item 2 on the agenda with the future approval of minutes?
all I have on my agenda is
We
adjourn.
did a consent agenda.
Oh, it's in the
with-
consent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, meeting is adjourned. It is 12:46. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do that all the time.
No gavel.
You said that was it.
That's next meeting.
She'll pull it out.